What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode here at Financipation. This channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. So today, guys, we're going to talk about college savings, and this is what I like to call part of my the college series. Full disclosure, I have written a book about scholarships. Link is in below. And more or less, I want as many of you guys to go to college for as free as possible or for as cheaply as possible, just like I did. Full disclosure, I received a full ride and a full academic scholarship to attend North Carolina A&T State University. Shout out to my Aggies. I received over $200,000 and I got my engineering degree in undergrad for free. So I want to basically pass that knowledge on to other people. And as a result, I talked about my journey as far as doing that and some of my steps in my scholarship book below. So by all means, please check it out. The link, like I said, is in the description below. But for this particular episode, guys, we're going to talk about the 529 college savings plan, as well as custodial college savings accounts. Okay. And the reason why I want to do this is because college right now is insanely high. As of now, at the time of this recording, the typical in-state college costs roughly $92,000 to $95,000 for a four-year bachelor's degree. And the typical out-of-state / private university is over $160,000. And that's average. So the cost of college is insane, but with the 529 plan, as well as the custodial accounts, it makes it a lot more sustainable for most individuals. So first and foremost, I want to start with the 529. First of all, what is a 529 college savings account? The 529 was created in 1996. It's essentially a tax advantage savings plan that's designed to encourage saving for future educational costs. So if your son is born or whatever, my son was born recently. The day he turned, the day we got his social security card and social security number, I opened up a 529 account for him. And depending on the state that you live in, every penny that you put into the 529 may or may not be tax advantage. As of now, there are 30 states that basically every penny you put into it is tax advantage, and there are 20 states roughly that do not. And the 529 account owners, they can withdraw money from any given time from the 529 plan, but only qualified distributions will be tax free. So similar to the Roth IRAs, 401ks, and the HSA accounts, my personal opinion that I tell most people is look at the 529 as a fire and forget account. Every month put a couple $100 into it, and literally just let that thing grow for 18 years. With the laws of compound interest and the way it's like a huge snowball that just pretty much picks up as it rolls downstream or whatever, just let it grow tax-free. So that way, don't touch it. That's my personal opinion. Keep it moving. What are some of the advantages of 529? Basically, more or less, one of the main things I like about the 529 plan is you, the parent, you, the beneficiary, you, the parent, you are the one who has the account. So there are some other types of college savings accounts. I'm gonna talk about them later in this video. The day your child, your nephew, your niece, your aunt, whoever, your daughter, whoever turns 18, they automatically get the funds. Now, in a perfect world, that's actually a beautiful thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to assume that your prospective beneficiary is a responsible adult. Let's say they have unfortunately developed some habits or whatever that you don't want to fund. With a 529 account, as the parent, as a recipient, as the person who has control of the account, you get to keep the account. In the event that person is not responsible for the account or whatever, or in the event that person you don't trust in that account, let's say they've developed some kind of habits or whatever, and you don't want them to have access to the hundreds of thousands of dollars you put into that account, with the 529, you keep the account. They don't get it. Depending on who that is and depending on your circumstances, that may or may not be a good thing. Secondly, let's say college, let's keep it real. I'm a mechanical engineer. I've been practicing for over 20 years. And on top of that, I also have an MBA, but college is not for everybody. And if you basically have a child that says, you know what, mom, you know what, dad, I don't want to go to college. I'd much rather be an electrician. I'd much rather be a plumber. I'd much rather make my six figures by opening my own construction company. I don't want to go to college, or I'd rather become a cop or whatever. If you have a 529 account, that money you can basically take as a parent, as a person who owns the account, you can take that money, and instead of making your child the beneficiary, you can put that beneficiary in somebody else's name. So that's another good thing about it. Another thing about the 529 is that the tax savings are absolutely huge. When I say huge, there are no annual contributions to the 529 account. So if you know any multimillionaires or whatever, they literally can put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this 529 account up to the tune of around $500,000, and it's literally that they don't get taxed on it. So it's a huge tax advantage or whatever. Some states allow you to contribute anywhere from $235,000 to $530,000 over the course of the of the lifetime of the 529. So it is a very good way to park your money if you're one of the ultra wealthy and one of the ultra elite who's listening to this video right now. Another good thing about the 529 is that typically speaking, the investments are very easy. So it's literally a fire and forget account. It's very low maintenance. You don't have a lot of options as far as what you can invest in, which is kind of a bad thing. But the good part about it is literally once you put your money in there, you don't really have to worry about the money losing a lot of value. You also don't really have to worry about the money making, but you're also not going to necessarily make the most off of your investments. So the 529 gets back to what I was originally saying. It's always a good idea pretty much to just invest it and to kind of leave it there. As a parent, you control the account. And it's possible to change, once again, the beneficiaries. Secondly and lastly, I obtained a full academic scholarship to attend undergrad. I obtained my engineering degree, and I love being an engineer. And just like I love talking finance. My son, once he gets to college, I'm going to put him on what I like to call the 1890 plan, which means the day he turns 18, he's at 90 days to get out of my house. And basically what I mean by that is this: I want him to have a plan. I want him, the day he turns 18, to say, Dad, I'm either going to college, I'm going a different route. And the good thing about it is if my son does decide to go to college and he does basically get a full academic scholarship, or he decides to join the military or whatever, with the 529, depending on what he's actually doing, you actually can still keep those funds. So what do I mean by that? If my son gets a full academic scholarship, he can get the 529 still without getting penalized for it. And let's say he has $100,000 in his 529, I can literally give him that amount of money. He can use it basically to start his own business. Or he can use it basically to buy property or to buy land, or he can use it basically to buy a rental property, or he can use it to buy his first house. The 529, depending on what you're actually getting it for and depending on what you're actually using it for, it does give you some benefits. I will say this, however, there are some disadvantages to the 529. First and foremost, as a parent, you control the account. Now, earlier I gave the example that you're a responsible parent and it's possible your child may or may not be responsible. Let's say the opposite is the case. Let's say the parent has a drug problem. Let's say the parent is the one that's the issue. Let's say the parent basically has an issue with the mother and as a result wants to hurt the child by not giving access to their account. That child has no access to the account. It belongs to the parent. So one of the disadvantages of the 529 is that if your child is very responsible and you're an irresponsible adult, which unfortunately, let's be honest, we do see this every day in our society that we live in, the child doesn't have access to the account, you do. That's one serious disadvantage. Another disadvantage that I see with the 529 is that if your child decides to not go to college or they don't want to use the funds, if they, depending on what state they live in, depending on what they want to do with it, if you don't use it if you do not use it basically for the for college, you get a 10% tax on that. You get a 10% penalty. So if you have $100,000 into that account, when you factor in taxes and everything like that, if your child does not decide to go use a 529 to go to college, they are off gate going to lose at least 10% of it. So it's going to be $90,000. And that's not including any other fees or taxes that could be associated depending on the state that you live in. So with 529s, it literally is you go to use it for college, or you get kind of hit with penalties, or you use it for college, or you basically hand it to someone who is going to use it for college. It's very, very rigid as far as what this account is for. So anybody that's going to invest into a 529, what I always tell them is make sure you have an idea and a plan about what you're investing for. Because if you think your child is going to go to college, by all means, invest in the 529. If you're kind of curious what they're going to do, you're going to invest in the 529, but keep in mind, there's a possibility if they don't go to college, you don't find a beneficiary who is going to go to college, that you're going to lose 10% of that. Having said that, with the laws of compound interest and the debt and the investment snowball, I personally think it's always a good idea to go with a 529 or a custodial account, which I'll talk about later. Keep it moving, keep it moving. How do you set up a 529? Pretty simple. As I've said earlier, if you listen to any of my videos, I'm a Charles Schwab guy. They've been very good to me. I do have accounts with Fidelity. I do have accounts with TD Ameritrade. But Charles Schwab was the first people that they were the first brokerage account I used, and I was a broke high school student at 18 selling candy. So I'm partial to Charles Schwab. But having said that, though, there's a lot of brokerage accounts that have 529s. There are even states that have 529s for that matter. There's different websites if you go to. Maryland has a 529, Virginia has a 529, Illinois, California, Florida. They are a lot of different states have different 529 plans. My personal advice, though, is that if you do go with one of the larger brokerage accounts, one of the benefits is that their 529s are literally national. They're statewide. I'm sorry, then they're national. They go from any state. You can live in California and use a 529 to fund your child's education. They decide to go to the University of Miami down in Florida. But with the state 529 plans, depending on which state you live in, the plan, it may or may not be basically state specific. So for instance, if you live in let's say you live in the great state of North Dakota or whatever, right? And you check the state's 529 plans. If North Dakota These 529 plans are only for colleges in the state of North Dakota, and you decide to go somewhere else, there could be some penalties associated with that. Full disclosure, North Dakota, I'm not necessarily sure what their 529 plans are because I have not actually looked. But what I'm saying is this, though, people, if you want to get a 529 plan, just go to Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Merrill Lynch. All of them have very competitive and very good 529 plans. As I said earlier, I think everybody should be investing in some type of 529 some type of college savings account, given how expensive college is becoming at the moment. So that's the 529. Let's move on. Custodial accounts. Custodial accounts are a very powerful tool as well as far as funding your child's education. So with a custodial account, the parent is not actually the owner of the account. So with the 529, you are the owner of the account. The beneficiary of that is basically the person that you decide is going to be the beneficiary. With a custodial account, the beneficiary of it gets the money at 18 years old, regardless. So if my son had a custodial account, the day he turns 18 is the day he owns that custodial account. And I have absolutely no say with what he does with the money. With a 529, the day my son turns 18, I decide basically whether or not he's going to be the beneficiary of it or not. And as a result, there are little slight differences with it. Another good, very, very good thing about the about the custodial account is that, in my opinion, the investments for it are a little stronger. Anyone that knows the way the market works, pretty much, you have the ability to basically make a lot of money or to lose a lot of money very quickly. With 529s or whatever, the investments that you kind of can go with aren't quite as flexible. But whereas with the custodial accounts, the investments are a lot more flexible. So as a result, you can make more money, but you can also lose more money with it. But the flexible accounts that you can put with it and what you can invest in, if you're really good at playing the markets, you actually can make more money over an 18-year period with a custodial account than you can with a 529. Additionally, another good thing about the custodial accounts is that there are no contribution limits, and the money that pretty much the child gets, the beneficiary gets at 18, unlike the 529. If your son or your daughter turns 18, the day they get that account, let's say you have $150,000 in their custodial account, they don't necessarily have to use it just for school. So with a custodial account, you can use the funds pretty much for anything. If your child wants to basically use it to go around Europe, pretty much just living it up, they can do that. If they want to use the funds more or less to buy property and to buy houses and to flip real estate and invest in a good growth stock mutual fund or to invest in a good index fund, they can do that with a custodial account. It does not necessarily have to be used for education. With the 529, it does have to be used for education. So with the custodial account, it's a lot more flexible as far as what the person can do with it once they're the beneficiary and the recipient of it. What are the disadvantages to it? Once again, the day your child turns 18, they get the money. So if they want to major in girls and beer and pizza drinking and basically partying up and living it up and whatever, they can do that. The money is theirs. Another good thing about another I would say disadvantage about the custodial account is that there are limits on the types of financial aid packages that you can get. So at the time that I'm recording this, the limits on the financial aid for custodial accounts are a lot more draconian than they are at the moment for 529 accounts. In essence, what that means is this: if you invest a lot of money at the time that I'm recording this into a custodial account, it is going to necessarily ping the amount of financial aid your son or daughter qualifies for. So basically, if your kid has $100,000 in their custodial account, the chances of them getting financial aid aren't going to be nearly as good as a person who basically say has no money in it, who does not have a custodial account. Whereas in a 529, if your child has a 529, they're going to college, financial aid at the time that I'm recording this doesn't necessarily ping them as bad. Secondly, another serious disadvantage that I personally find with the custodial accounts is that there's no change of beneficiaries. So with the 529, if my son does not want to go to college, let's say he wants to basically become a police officer, or let's say he basically wants to become an entrepreneur or something like that, I can say, okay, cool, my son does not want to go to college, but I could give that money potentially. I can make another person, say my nephew, or let's say the next child that I have, I can make them the beneficiary, and without any fees, without any taxes, without any penalties. So with the 529, you can basically change your beneficiary. With the custodial account, you can't do that. And in addition to not being able to do that, the tax benefits with the custodial account are pretty much non-existent. I said earlier with the 529, basically, that the tax benefits are insane. I mean, once again, $230,000, $500,000. There are people who do these types of things with the tax benefits. With the custodial account, there are no tax benefits. At least at the time that I'm recording this, there are no tax benefits. So it's they're a little different. Ultimately, they're both kind of used to fund at the end of the day, they both kind of use more or less to fund the college experience. And in conclusion, so just to kind of wrap it all up, once again, I think that education is very important. Not to poo-poo on my blue-collar people, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, doctors, my Marines, my cops. The world is needed, but we need those professions as well. This video is for my more so, I would say, like my white-collar, blue-collar, my white-collar listeners in regards to those ones with science, technology, engineering, math, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, PhDs, all that type. And in the conclusion, I just want to say with the 529, the advantages are humongous, huge tax benefits. Once again, depending on the state that you live in, you can be getting literally anywhere from $300,000 to almost $600,000 worth of tax benefits over the course of an 18-year period for the 529. Additionally, the money is highly restricted. I'm sorry. One issue though is that the money that you get is highly restricted. In other words, if you don't go to college, you decide to use it for something else, bam, Uncle Sam hits you with taxes and fees, and that's not including what the state that you live in is going to hit you with, anywhere to the tune of 10 to 15%. So 529s have to be used they have to be used for educational purposes. And another benefit, I consider it a benefit anyway, with the 529 is that you control, as a parent, you control basically who gets access to that funds. You control who gets access to it, and if you don't believe that your son, daughter, niece, nephew is responsible enough to get the hundreds of thousands of dollars or the $15,000 to $20,000 you put into the account, you can give it to someone else. Custodial accounts, the advantages to them is that for a custodial account, the flexible investments you can make are a lot better. I've heard stories of people literally having hundreds of, insanely large amounts of money in their custodial accounts because they're very good at timing the markets, they're very good at playing the markets. So as a result, the money and the money that you can gain in a custodial account and the money you can lose is significantly higher because of the investments are better. Additionally, another good thing about the custodial account is that there is no issue in regards to in regards to the type of people who can have access to it. So for instance, for the 529, only that one beneficiary can get it. And for the 529 or whatever, the beneficiaries you can change. For the custodial account, it's that one person. So when the person gets it, they can do literally whatever they want to do with it. When the person gets their custodial account, they can do whatever they want to do with the money, and it's automatically theirs. They don't get penalized. They don't want to go to college, and they don't get penalized. They want to start a business, or they want to basically use it to buy investment properties. So those are the benefits, and those are the pros and cons of both. Full disclosure, I think I said it a little earlier in this video. My wife and I, after kind of looking at what the pros and the cons were, we personally, for our investment strategy and for our household, we decided to go with the 529 plan for our son. And that's the plan that we decided to go with, but they're literally, you can't go wrong with either one. I know a lot of people who prefer the custodial account because they like the idea of their child basically having access to larger sets of funds and stuff like that. And I know people who do the 529 plan. And to me, you honestly can't go wrong with it. To me, as long as you have a plan and you basically plan on working that plan, you're pretty much putting yourself definitely ahead of those who just wake up one day and say, oh shoot, my child is 18 years old. How are we going to pay for college? You do not want to be in that boat. And the last thing I'll say is this: I never heard 529s at the barbershops, at the barbecues, at the pool parties, at the block parties, at church. I never heard anything. We never really talked about 529 college savings accounts or custodial accounts for that matter. And one of the reasons why I started this channel is because I want our community, and I want more Americans in general, regardless of the community, to start talking this way, because the cost of college is insane. And there are different things that the federal government has set up to make college more affordable. And a lot of times the reason why we don't do those things is that people don't really know about them. Lastly, as I said earlier, I've written a book, link below, in regards to scholarships and things like that nature, and my journey to get to obtaining a full scholarship to North Carolina A&T. Stand up for shout out to my Aggies. And please like, comment, subscribe to this video, and I will see you on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. It's your boy Chris. I'm out. Peace.